Josh says, "Dear Super Castle brothers, I cannot stand censorship no matter what the context. I avoid games that censor themselves as much as possible. In the example, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, many costumes and details of the characters and even dialogue were changed to fit better with the West. What should I care? Why should I care about a game if the people making it or publishing it don't care enough to keep their vision whole? Am I crazy or is this hashtag relatable?"
I feel like you don't understand what the word censorship actually means. Somebody's allowed to change their work as much as they desire. Censorship means that the government is coming down on you and saying that you can't say that or do that or display that or whatever.
So what do you call it when they go from cleavage to no cleavage?
In terms of say Tokyo Mirage?
Yep.
Where's it coming from? Is it coming from the parent company?
The dev, internally.
Internally?
Yeah.
That's not censorship. That's a choice. That's a localization change.
Self-censorship.
Sure, whatever. But self-censorship isn't censorship. Censorship is an incredibly specific term that everybody misuses constantly. It's infuriating.
All right, so let's call it self-censorship.
Sure.
How do you feel about self-censorship?
Fucking complain to the devs, I guess. But you look like a baby.
I don't like it. I think if it's pretty harmless in the end, and if it's an oversensitive reaction to your expected target audience, for the most part, there's situations where if it's over the top, like you can see the darkening of the asshole.
Yeah.
Then that's one thing. But if you're dealing with Orihime has a wedding dress and this version stops here where there's some there's cleavage, and this version we got to put her in a turtleneck, I kind of find that silly because it's almost like you're pointing out something and going, "This is protect the children from the neck," and it kind of feels like a silly decision.
So here's my take on that particularly. Let's take Jury from SF5.
Sure.
Who appears to, in her original costume, be in like a latex bodysuit that had lots of big old cleavage and exposed legs and whatnot, right? Which got replaced by black latex covering those bits. And there are a lot of people go, "I can't believe they censored Jury, covered her up." Or, the Tokyo Mirage Sessions one has characters that have boob windows that are just covered in cloth.
Sorry, I know you didn't get to your point yet, but like the Jury thing is more of just a costume change. That's not at all.
All right, let's
on
say
point. It's more so, if you want to keep it in that realm, it's more so no default Armika costume allowed on main stage.
I mean,
for ESPN.
the example used is Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I mean, I've seen some of these changes. They're like the leggings go higher, so there's less thigh. Or the boob window gets covered in cloth, so it looks like a complete shirt with no cleavage, or something like that. Or the neck is a little higher. The devs chose to do that because of a million possible reasons. There's a reason that,
but modesty is usually the one.
I would think that one of the reasons that people never actually like internalize or even think about is that part of the reason for those designs in the first place is because they're catering to an otaku degenerate sex pervert audience.
Sure.
And then maybe want to clean it up when they can. That's possible. I'm not even saying that's even common.
Yeah. No,
but in that case, the original version would have been censored to add more titty. But regardless of that.
Yeah.
Let's take a character that had a big old slutty boob window. See all them tittos, and they cut. That's now cloth, so you see the shape of the tittos, but you don't see the flesh of the tittos, and it's these idol characters in your anime game. I cannot possibly take seriously the idea that anyone would look at that and go, "I can't believe they would steal my waifu tittos from me. No, I will not buy it. This is a moral crime."
All right. So, straw man aside, right?
This person literally said they would not buy it because they hate censorship.
Yeah, and that person is ridiculous, as is anybody who is on the extremes of those viewpoints, right?
Yeah, totally.
If you grab any person that is like on the wild ass fringes of their outrage, then you're gonna get that ridiculous thing.
Well, sure. The problem with this is that every time this happens, the people on that fringe are the ones that you actually see.
So, like, the tone I take on this, which is as far from that as possible, is one where I look at it and as somebody who 9 times out of 10 prefers like tomboyish looking girls that don't necessarily have designs that cater in that way, and I look at things like the Sanran Kagura designs and big old titty flops, and it's kind of just goofy, right? I feel that way most of the time when I see those designs. However, once it's out there, I see the change slash like audio like the West needs a different version of this thing as a like. It feels like a strange morality play when you didn't have it to begin with, and it feels hollow, right? So, if you wanted to make that character design that way from the jump, and it's probably one that I possibly would prefer, I get it, and I'm like, go for it. But when you clearly don't have that interest in mind, but you just make a switch so that you can region lock your pervy, whatever.
It's funny because
it just looks so silly.
The Fire Emblem thing is really, really interesting as a microcosm. Because you remember Awakening and Fates had those fucking rub the person's head fucking shits? You know, rub your character, rub your waifu mini games?
I don't.
Okay,
actually.
they did.
Okay.
And it had all that, you know, baby shit. Supposedly half the team fucking despised it.
Okay.
And the other half of the team was like, yeah, no, we got to get them titties in there. And like that team is in flux over that shit.
Yeah.
All the time.
Now, here's the thing. There's definitely examples out there where I'm like, look, there's a fucking super weird mini game in Ultra Despair Girls where like after establishing
Only Fates? All right.
I think we call the term we used was elementary abuse Chan.
Cool.
Was a character, and then there's a mini game where you have to more or less recreate her abuse.
Sick.
And it's like, what are you going for here, right?
You know what they're going for.
Yeah, it's super fucking weird, right? In its tone. There's things like that where it's like, this was from the jump a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, and I think everything has its own specific context that you need to judge it on. And I think that is definitely one far cry away from we need the turtleneck on Oribe, right? And I have
to ask, are you actually referring to a real turtleneck?
Yeah.
Okay.
She has a wedding dress. It's cut like a normal wedding dress.
Yeah.
And then they replaced it with her neck being all white so that the wedding dress goes up to her turtleneck. It goes up to the bottom of her neck.
What's the character's name?
Orihime.
Orihime?
No, no. Am I thinking of Bleach on that? I think I fucked up her name. Tsubasa. Tsubasa, yeah.
Fire Emblem. There we go.
And there's a couple of other ones that have these little weird things where they touch it in these ways, right? But I'm like, there's just in general, there's ways where you can there's times when you can clearly see that it's like, oh, so we're gonna do a core values style cut in on a game like Dead or Alive in a moment where clearly the people making it had one intention, you have another, you want to pretend it's different from what it is, and
my god, these photos are hilarious.
They're the side by sides.
They're these minor changes with this big fat censored logo on them, and it's like It
doesn't have to be the screaming "you ruined my waifu" thing. It can definitely be the "come on, guys, what are you doing?" You know, that's how I feel about it, and that's how I feel like the sensible version of the discussion goes. Don't listen to anybody that's screaming about their ruined waifus because that's goofy.
That's the only people who are talking about it.
And I don't. Well, I'm talking about it right now.
No, I mean this person is literally talking about it.
You know, and like us, like we laugh at core values because it's like, so where's the line? What is this arbitrary line on what's okay and not okay? And you know, my Shiranui's got too many bouncies, and you know, there's all kinds of weird little plays where you're like, I get if you don't want your elementary abuse Chan minigame in the game. I think it's a weird morality play when you're trimming up the thighs.
Yeah, whatever.
You know? They can do what they want,
sure,
but I think it looks hollow and silly.
What do you mean? They just like, why are you assigning like a moral value to this? It could be as simple as somebody going, yeah, let's clean it up for the US release because I'm embarrassed that we hypersexualized this 14-year-old so much.
Because at the same time, right? Well, when you go to the 14-year-old extremes, you get like, yeah, you're getting into that weird territory where
How old's the character you just mentioned, Tsubasa?
I'm not sure. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it's of that it's within that range certainly. It's in that range certainly. But it's not always going to be like that. It's not always that cut and dry, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think that like, yeah, they can do those things for the West, but I also think that like, again, it almost shows it's not the feeling you're putting on them, where they're like, oh, let's clean this up. It's like, no, they don't feel that way.
I'm not putting that on them. I'm saying it's a possibility.
Okay.
Because the people who complain always assume that it is over some possible moral panic over Western audiences or some shit. Or maybe the game won't sell as well if it has all the titties in it or whatever, which is nonsense.
Or she's aged up.
No game would ever sell worse because of tittos, right? Everybody likes titties, right? But I have a serious problem with the way this email was originally formed.
Okay.
And that, because you say, oh, you keep talking about the people crying about their waifus, right? It's like, yes, 99% of the time when there is some massive kerfuffle about censorship in games, it is nearly exclusively about a Japanese game where the waifu's bounciness or ages have been changed for the West to make it less overtly creepy. Are you familiar with the game Devotion?
Was that the Bury My Child?
No, Devotion is the sequel.
No, wait, that's Conception.
Is a pseudo-sequel to a game called Detention. Is made by a Taiwanese developer called Red Candles.
Okay, no, I don't
In
know.
Devotion, which is a fantastic game that you could buy on Steam for like 2 days, there is a tiny little hidden message calling the Prime Minister of China a Winnie the Pooh. That company had its business license revoked, and the game had to get fucking pulled from shelves, and you can't buy it anymore ever. That's censorship. And I have seen 1 million people scream and cry that the cleavage on this minor got cut in their anime Make the Girl Pregnant game on the Vita. And I've seen comparatively few complain about what is actually censorship.
Certainly.
And I therefore cannot take this kind of question seriously at all, because it always sounds like, but my titty game though.
But didn't we clarify it within about a sentence or two, the difference between censorship and self-censorship?
Yes.
Because getting China'd is a super fucked situation that is not the same thing.
And it's the thing that no one complains about.
But that's why, but at the very least, but here's the thing, right? If you want to attempt to understand, like, someone has a reasonable point of view, you can't assume it's the completely unreasonable way the entire time.
All right.
So if they're not, if like what they're thinking of is, let's say, the term self-censorship, but they're not correctly using the term, then you can just describe the correct term in the discussion.
All right, fine. I will de-straw man myself and then say, I don't believe choosing to buy a game or not, or watch a movie or not, over minor costume alterations is reasonable. I think it's ridiculous. I think it is on the level of, but Sonic's arms aren't blue, man. Like, it's the most minor deal possible. Unless the theme of Fire Emblem Tokyo Mirage Sessions is that idols wear low-cut dresses or some shit, or that is some way actually important, it's fucking stupid.
I agree that it's completely minor. I 100% agree with you on that. And there's a threshold to which it's even worth discussing, and there's a point at which it becomes not worth discussing because it's so minor. But I think if we're looking at it on the table, especially on the basis of this guy's question, it's the same as when you look at anytime a movie goes different places and has changes made to it in different ways. And I'm not going for the Star Wars.
No, you're talking edits, redubs,
and
whatever,
things like that, right? And you kind of are drawn to try and figure out what the intention was behind this. And if it's a updated release globally that is like, no, this is what I wanted it to be, and this is that, then that's one thing. But when it becomes sort of a region specific thing, I always get a little bit like, okay, so this is what you think this is what plays here, and what you originally want to do is displayed by your original release. you know. And I think that
Maybe.
likely, could be time, who knows. But I think that if it wasn't, and if they wanted things to sort of like play or reflect a little differently, slash, you know, update their tone, then it would probably be a global update as opposed to a region specific.
I think that looking at content like this and screaming from the rooftops about the artist's original intent being sacred.
Definitely not screaming.
No, not you. But like, you know, like you got to keep it like, and when it's like, in many cases, I assume these people don't give a fuck one way or the other. They're literally just putting what will sell or help sell in their region.
Yeah. Because I think,
Like-
I think again, when you grab both sides of the slider and you have one side is but my titties though,
Yeah.
and the other side is
Ban those titties though.
like the other side is fuck off, it's creepy, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know what? Both of these are ridiculous, and being reasonable is probably somewhere in the middle where people actually feel in a lot of cases that are not these wild Twitter screamers and Reddit screamers, where you're like, it's literally me putting my hand up and going, huh? You know, and that's about the end of the gesture. That's about the end of the thought. And at the end of the day, it affects nothing in the game.
I mean, I could break this down to an even simpler degree. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You sound like a baby, which is what I think I said at the very beginning. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The things that you're complaining about don't matter. When you're talking censorship, let's talk about the plot. Let's talk about themes. Let's talk about characters' races or ages or acts of violence or sexual acts or depiction of these things. But it's like, oh, but the girl wears a slodge. I can't see the top 2 inches of her titto. Like
And they're probably still gonna buy it.
Yeah,
Well, certainly at the end of the day, if you're making a fucking hard line on it. But yeah, I guess I just that's the side of it. That's the side of it that I feel like I understand. You know, and I feel like it's very easy to come down on the people that are being ridiculous about it.
It sure is.
But I feel like it's less easy to come down on the people that are being less ridiculous about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
I have engaged in this conversation many times.
yeah.
And I have yet to find somebody who is passionate about this topic.
Yeah.
That it did not eventually break down to, but my waifus.
Because I guess the part of it is like, I'm curious about what the dev was going for in those moments, and like ultimately you're like, it doesn't matter, who knows, maybe, right? And you're like, it could be this, but who knows?
Yeah,
whatever.
trying to ascribe your vision of an author's
But
intent.
and
is
I think
often pointless.
that's where it kind of just but I'm like that doesn't stop my curiosity about that. At the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you're right, it doesn't make a difference, but I'm still curious when I see that, in the same way that you see an edit to the Malaysian version of something and you go,
oh, my favorite one.
What was that about?
That somebody pointed me out to that Vinny made popular was McClunky. You hear this shit?
no.
George Lucas's final act was that another edit to the Greedo scene is now in the Disney Plus version of A New Hope.
Oh yeah.
In which, before he goes to try and shoot Han Solo, it zooms in on Greedo and he goes, McClunky.
Oh yeah. I did hear about this. Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck?
Quick question, just before we move on.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at a certain point, I feel like we've talked about it as much as we'd willing to give a shit. But what would you say if an edit was made to increase the lewdness?
I wouldn't care either.
Okay. So it's not necessarily about the pullback as it is, let's say they de-self-censor and they put it
That
out.
has happened, in particular with violence. That happens quite often, where the American or North American or European version is way more violent.
Yo,
than
Angry
the,
Kirby, bro.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm thinking of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
You can't show decapitations in the Japanese version.
Oh, okay. So Leon's head.
They just chainsaw him in the neck and he just falls over.
Okay.
Do
you but like in like full honesty, you feel that like you would have the same tone?
Yeah, I would see the people who would go, oh, this is gonna corrupt the children or whatever. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Who gives a fuck? It's a titty. You'll live either without seeing a titty, or you'll live with seeing a titty another day. None of us will die. It's okay.
Yeah, and that tone is exactly kind of where I'm at. Like, you just sounded like what I would want to say.
Yeah.
So you get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anybody who takes a stance on just censorship, it's like, fucking give me a break.
What would you
Give me a
say?
fucking break.
What would you say if the dev did state their intent and it was actually that?
I would love, man, it would make it so much easier if the devs just came out and was like, yeah, no, we were worried about getting a higher rating in the US because of the rating system. And you go, oh, that sucks. And then download the Japanese version, I guess. Or the Chinese version, which would have the extra, the Hong Kong version that would have the English.
Or if they came out and they said, like, we felt that it was inappropriate. You know, if you got one of those weird things. It would never happen, but, like, would that make it easier to be like, whoa, what are you doing?
Yeah. It would make it a lot easier.
Because then you have their intention.
Then there would be no guess.
Yeah.
Because the most infuriating part of
I agree with that.
is it's censorship. It's like, you don't even know that. You don't even know if it's self-censorship. Until the devs come out and say, we changed this due to pressure from Sony or our publisher or our perception of American audiences or whatever, you don't even know.
And of course, it's always like, the important thing, too, is that it's always case-by-case basis, as is almost everything in life, right? As easy and comforting as it is to use blankets, there's always scenarios where you get it and it makes a bit more sense. I think the entire history of the character Poison is an incredibly interesting one.
Oh, it's fascinating.
That is representative of, like, literally being aware of
You know what? You're right. You're completely right. That is fascinating. But I just decided that there's another part of this that annoys me.
Okay.
And it annoys me greatly.
Okay.
Every time this censorship comes up, or depiction, and it's always the young anime girls, right? Well, 99% of the time. Sometimes the young anime boys. It always comes down to, oh, it's too sexy or it's too raunchy or whatever. And it's always like, how big are their tits? How much of their butt can you see? How low is their skirt? You know? And it's fucking juvenile. Like, it's about sex appeal, and the sex appeal that is being discussed here is, but how big the titty, though? Almost every time I've seen one of these altered designs for the West, I find them to be genuinely more attractive because they're classier.
That's why I said from the jump, that's why I said, like, a lot of the time, like, I'm more for that version of the design,
like,
and I wish it was there from the jump.
Oh, yeah.
But when it's not, I notice that, and I'm curious about it.
Like, I don't mean
to
stand on a pedestal here, but sex is more than just seeing how much of your partner's skin you can see.
So Elizabeth in King of Fighters 11 came out and had her open shirt with the titty emphasizer.
Yeah.
And it was wild. And then I think the next version of her, where they switched it from the white shirt to the blue one, she got the thing that Seinfeld hates, the
puffy shirt,
the pirate puffy shirt. She got that thing, and it was like a sanitizing into some degree of the design, and I legitimately think it looks better, right? But it, like I said, like, as somebody who would even vouch for the alternate version, right? It's always the process that makes me curious.
It's all like, maybe my disgust or my derision comes from an audience of people that are like, but I need to see the nipple. I have to see it. If I can't see the nipple, it's like the titty ain't there.
No, I remember there was a redesign in something where I forgot what it was, but like, it was like a skin tight suit redesign type thing where I was like, that legitimately looks cooler. I legitimately was like, the redesign here actually looks cooler in this context. But yeah, I think what you're seeing in some cases
it's
is
juvenile. It's like a 14-year-old's idea of what sexy is. Which I guess is appropriate because that's the age of most of these characters.
Of course. I still do think your brain is going to notice, and like anytime it feels like like someone is trying to change the way you've perceived something based on where you live or what you might think or feel or whatever the case is. I think people are a little bit sensitive to that. And I think that like in the same way that we kind of would look at, and it's not, it's a false equivalency. I'm sorry. But like, I don't want to, because when we talk about like, oh, they're going to patch the shit out of that Star Wars kiss or things like that. Right. And you're kind of just like, don't change shit.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that sentiment, like I said, it goes both ways, and you kind of can see when, like I said, if it were to become more sexy afterwards, then you'd still be like, man, don't change shit.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not. It's definitely not a strong feeling, and it's never worth screaming about, because it's super.
The devotion shit was totally worth screaming about, because that was for real. That company is fucked.
Yeah, we should probably move on though. But
are they getting them pillows ready to hit us, filling their pillows with coins so they can hit us with hard waifus?
I feel like I'm happy with the way I described that, because I feel like it's nuanced.
Yeah.
And it's easy to miss that nuance.
I think the situation has no nuance at all and is filled with morons and children.
Okay.
And I bet you.
Okay.
I bet you anything. I could go to my Twitter right now and there's a guy yelling at me that says I don't get it, and his avatar is an anime girl. I would bet you.
Well, fuck that guy. I don't want to. I'm not expecting rationality coming out of that guy, certainly.
Let's go try.
Yeah. I think everybody can handily agree that that guy who's screaming with the Dakimakura in hand about his lubby chutters needs to fucking stop, you know? But
well, yeah. I'll be damned. Not only am I wrong, but I'm opposite wrong.
What's up?
The only person on my Twitter talking to me about this topic does have an anime avatar, and an anime avatar of like a cute anime girl on their banner, but they're being super reasonable and down to earth. Well, I'll be. I did change the world for the better. You're all welcome.
Was it a good point of view or observation?
Even if I didn't even read the whole thing, but I could tell it wasn't mad.
Does it add to the discussion? I'm curious.
Oh, no, wait. No, it's a shitty take. No, I didn't read it closely enough.
Fuck everything. What are we here for?
Yeah,
just to suffer?
I wonder why I only watch Castle Super Beast whenever I am in the mood to hurt myself.
Oh.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, well, that could be one of many reasons.
No, but then they start talking about the anime censorship shit. And how hypocrite I am.
There's a lot of people that
and that I'm a big baby.
There's a lot of people that can't stand.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well,
where things have.
I was right after all. Me saying that I was wrong was actually wrong. I'm inverting my stand powers now.
And you lost me in the process.
Well, whatever. Anime fans are trash. Yeah, I watch anime.
So, in conclusion, don't protect the children from the titties.
Protect the titties from the children?
But don't put the titties on the children.
Hey, let me ask you a question. I have a friend of a friend of a friend. And they know somebody who is breastfeeding their kid, right? Pretty normal. How old's too old?
We had a breastfeeding conversation on Death Stranding the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yes, we did. A lot of ground was covered.
Yeah.
I want to say there was an episode of Curb that addressed this.
Yeah.
If you can walk and talk, it's time to stop.
Because the kid's able to ask for the titty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's no good.
Because they're almost 4.
Yeah. There was a YouTube channel that was running that racket for a while.
That seems too old.
And that's a hustle because
technically who's hustling?
Because that's a nature video that's not counted as anything but a natural thing that a mother does.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? Is that why this has 80 million views?
I don't think it is.
You don't think what is?
That's the reason, I mean. Because it's natural and beautiful. in the miracle of life and motherhood.
Oh well, that's what she's saying.
Well, I mean, people say a lot of things.
People do say a lot of things.
I've said a lot of things today.
You did.
Yeah.
Are they real?
All of them. I am a big baby. That is true.
Does that mean that as a big baby you want to do big baby things?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
That is not the.
That's not the line we're taking.
No, it's not.
I thought that's where you were going somewhere.
It's not where I would know.
See the discussion.
I meant that I can be immature and stamp my feet and act like a child.
Okay, not that you mean.
No.
Okay.
No.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
Okay.
No.
Because you see, the discussion that we had was pretty much one that went the same way, and it was like, okay, but like life or death emergency situation though.
Yeah.
And then
it's back to cannibalism.
Okay, well, it's just
is that cannibalism? I can't even tell.
No, it's not. But then it's like, what about? Could you do it then? Could you go for it?
You know what might be the? There's a lot of words that turn people off. I can't think of anything that I find less appealing than the reference to a person's udders.
Hmm.
You know, you see the anime thing with the girls dressed up like a cow or something, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
Nuh-uh, man. No thanks.
It ain't great, but it's in there. It's in the lexicon with chest beefers and everything else that's fucking hilarious. Yeah. I mean, here's what I'll say. Not with a straight face, at least.
Yeah.
But that's what they do.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And in general, you want to keep your distance.
Yeah.
You know. But there are people, and we had a whole conversation, and it went all over the place, and it did involve even touching on the fact that sometimes there's people that involuntarily have that, even when they're not.
Just going on
a parent.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just happens.
There's people out there for that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody into everything now.
And sometimes it's unintentional.
Sometimes you don't know what's going on. You just got a little leakage.
And you're like, what's up with that?
Yeah. We can do it too, apparently.
Apparently, it's really gross, but yeah, you can.
You try. You have to try really hard.
Yep.
You have to believe in the heart of the cards.
Yep.
I'm doing it right now.
Yep. Bitter.
I'd say I'm pretty bitter about it.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
So, anyways,
all right, I stopped. I've mentally turned off the production. There we go. Our podcast is disgusting.
It's really bad, and I don't blame anybody that says I can't listen.
Yeah,
to this
no,
anymore.
like we see the comments of people going like, another week of this, I'm out,
or or just the threads, untagged though they may be. That people send back my way about people just being like, all right, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
I have to wait for the timestamps because I can't handle a 90-minute discussion about an asshole.
I've seen like people having full-on discussions about the full-on checkout.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I don't blame you. I get it.
You'll get stronger if you listen, but sometimes you want to stay weak.
I get it. It's it really is it is a spiraling as opposed to a journey.
Yeah.
And I think the problem / power comes from the fact comes from the same source.
Yeah.
Where you're like, this is awful, but is it more funny than it is awful?
And that's going to change depending on the person viewing it.
And the moment and the context that the discussion even entered the vortex to begin with. And can you make it back out by the time you've got this far? It's 4 and a bit hours.
I'm at the point where like I can watch like YouTube videos of like surgeries and just like eat my dinner. I don't give a shit. It doesn't affect me. Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever, we're all desensitized and stuff, but there's like all these. You ever see like a tiny thing that just like makes you just, just like
totally.
Yep. That ice cream video, that girl that got arrested with the ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it breaks down to like tampering of food, just like full body, like shutter.
Well, that's why I talked about the Uber guy.
Yeah, the Uber guy.
Yeah,
like I was kind of trying not to scream when you were talking about that.
But yeah,
it's so horrible.
Yeah. No, but anyway, the end of the thought was quite simply that I think the longer it goes, the more you become Pat exponent Pat, and I become Woolie exponent Woolie.
I see. Yes.
And
that's an interesting form of math you've got going on.
Unbearable in some cases, and I don't even blame. I don't even blame anybody who doesn't want that.
There's a wise man that once said, "Please keep screaming, 'Shut the fuck up' at me. It only makes my opinions worse." And I try to take that to heart every day. That's wisdom.